Joining me now, Shadow Energy and Emissions Reduction Minister Dan Tehan. We will get to your portfolio, but there's a bit to work through today. Beginning on expenses, we always have this cycle. They're within the rules, but not within community expectations. Is it time to set rules that are in line with community expectations?
Well, I think a couple of points here, Tom. The first is that Annika Wells has been forced, kicking and screaming, to basically refer herself. But really what should be happening here is the Prime Minister should be stepping in and going one step further and getting his department to look at all her expenses. So we know independently, not only IPIA saying that it's been done all right, but also that it's been done according to the Ministerial Code of Conduct. Now, the Prime Minister made very clear in the lead up to the 2022 election that he thought that the Ministerial Code of Conduct needed to be fully abided by. So let's see whether that has been the case, given the litany now of front pages that we've seen about Annika Wells, and he should refer it to the head of his department to see what happens. The second thing is all these rules, like we did when we were in office, over time should be reviewed, and whether if and whether there is a better way to do it, then it should be looked at and it should be considered, because obviously rules need to be examined over time, and so if there is a need for them to be re-looked at, they should be re-looked at.
What do you mean if there is a need? What's your view? Is there a need to re-look at them?
Well, I don't think that there is a problem every 5, 7, 8, 10 years saying, okay, let's have a look and let's see whether they're fit for purpose, as we hope they were when they were put in place. So if the Prime Minister said they needed to be reviewed, then I'm sure that we would support that, because all rules over time need to be looked at and examined, and these rules should be no different.
It's been 7 or 8 years. Why not just be clear and say review the rules?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for all my colleagues, but as from my point of view, I'd have no concern whatsoever if the rules were reviewed, because I think these sorts of rules should be reviewed, and there might be a better way to do it. There might be a clearer way where you say, okay, you know, there's a set amount of money for doing this, which all MPs get, rather than it having to go through IPIA, etc. I don't know, but if there is a better way to do it, then we potentially should look at that.
So, as a couple of examples, family reunion flights where you can have someone or have family members fly anywhere in the country, business class, is that too generous?
Oh, well, look, I think that should be looked at as to see whether it is fit for purpose. I mean, you know, should it be that you can fly family members, especially your children, to and from Canberra, especially if you're a rural MP? You know, that's the sort of thing where maybe the rules work well. When it comes to interstate travel, maybe that becomes more and more of a grey area. But let's get people, you know, to look at this outside of the MPs themselves and see whether the rules as they exist today, you know, do need updating. But I mean, you know, let's get back to the point of why we're here, and it's because of Annika Wells. And I think, you know, in the first instance, what we should see is Annika Wells not only self-referring to IPIA, but the Prime Minister stepping in and doing what he said he was going to do in the lead up to the 2022 election, and that's make sure he holds ministers to account. And there's been no holding ministers to account under his prime ministership, and this is just another example of it. And he should be referring Minister Wells to his own department to see whether she has met that Ministerial Code of Conduct or not.
Social media ban. Tech companies would love division on this between the two major parties. Is it time to say that tech companies, it's within their remit, their resources, to actually implement what Australia wants here, and it's up to them to do it?
Look, we've supported this all along, as you know, and it was our idea in the first place. We were the ones who said we should look at doing something. So we support it. But the problem is you've got, and it's now come to light, that Minister Wells can't have been focused fully on this implementation because she's been so distracted by other things that we're now concerned about how the implementation is going to work. And that is what we are worried about. It's the same with energy. You know, you've got a part-time energy minister who's more focused on servicing New York and the United Nations than he is about.
Well, let me get to that area.
And it's the same.
Report from the energy market operator today, and essentially it is saying that on the one hand, coal will need to be in the grid until 2049. It's almost a bit of a Rorschach test. There's something for everyone, because it also says renewables backed by hydro, backed by batteries are still the best path to reduce emissions and to have a reliable grid. What do you make of that?
Well, what I make about it is, the first instance, what everyone has to understand is that this draft ISP, Integrated System Plan, is based on the government's policy. So what they say is, okay, these are the government's policies. This is the best way, according to them, to implement the government's policies. Now, what we're saying is the government's policies are all wrong, and they're leading to people facing higher and higher energy bills. And what we need is some honesty from the part-time minister, Minister Bowen, about what is occurring here, because if he started to reset his targets, if he started to put energy affordability first, we wouldn't be in this mess. And we're starting to see all sorts of contortions now in the way that these bodies are reporting this information. For instance, you look at the rate of capital borrowings that they're now suggesting for the poles and wires, and it's gone from 7 or 8% down to 3%. Now, no one can understand why that has occurred. I mean, we need to hear from Minister Bowen about this, like we need transparency around the CSIRO modelling, which we don't see and they will not release, like we need to see transparency around what they're doing with the capacity investment scheme. The whole thing is literally clouded in secrecy. And the reason that it's clouded in secrecy is because Chris Bowen and the government know energy prices under his plan are going to continue to increase.
So there has been pains to point out that we're going to increase electricity use, AI, data centres, electrification of a lot of things, which is only going to gather pace, you would imagine. Is it important to note, and as well the fact we've got these pretty creaking old coal-fired power stations, that there's no easy path from here, that there might be better paths, but there's no, winding our way back to the 80s or the 90s?
Well, you need a proper plan, and you've got to make sure that you make the transition in a sensible way. Now, no one says that pursuing 82% renewables in your grid by 2030, which is completely and utterly ideologically driven, is a sensible way to do this. And, we're becoming more and more aware of the need for proper baseload power due to AI and data centres and the growths we're looking at. We're now getting to the stage where the New South Wales state government is thinking that they're going to have to somehow come up with a separate scheme to provide that energy to data centres for the use of AI. And remember, AI is all about providing the jobs of the future to young people. Right. When I was in the US, what are they looking at here? You've got the big tech companies who are saying, right, this is going to be crucial. So we're going to look at providing baseload power through nuclear. Well, Chris Bowen and Anthony Albanese won't even entertain lifting the ban here to see whether that might be a more...
We've got to leave it there. We'll see where you go on nuclear as well, Dan Tehan. Appreciate your time today. Thank you.